Okay, class. I know it's really weird. Let me set up my little camera here. Okay, today because I have to do things with both hands, so I'm trying to set up my camera so that it will shoot the video without me holding it. Right now I'm having a little trouble, but I think I will get it done. So please be patient. All right, this is kind of like what we're going to be doing. You can see my paper. So hi, how are you? Here's my hand. Sorry, I'm being silly. Okay, today we are going to cover the second part of lesson 9-2, which is on representing linear functions. So one way we're going to represent the linear function is by a graph. Today we're going to learn how to make a graph. Okay, so here I have drawn the x-axis and the y-axis of a plane, okay, on which we're going to put our graph on. Okay, so here's a linear graph. I want you to notice something about this linear graph. It has 2 points on it that crosses the y-axis and one that crosses the x-axis. So one thing I want you to notice about this point where the line and the y-axis intersect, at this point, what is the ordered pair? Well, we know that the x is 0, but the y is 3. 1, 2, 3. So if we were to write this out, it will be 0, 3. That's the point. And then there's another point right here where the x is 2 and the y is 0. So at these points, you notice that one of the coordinates is a 0. Okay, here the other one is 0. This is very useful because we can graph things with just 2 points, and these are points that are very easy to find. So we call these the intercepts. This is called the x-intercept, and this is called the y-intercept. How do we find them? Okay, so how do we find the x-intercept and the y-intercept? Okay, the x-intercept and the y-intercept when you're given the linear equation. So we're going to use example 3 on page 392. They ask us to graph negative 2x plus y equals 4. So to do that, we're going to find the 2 intercepts and graph based on those 2 points. Here's how you find the x-intercept. You notice that at the x-intercept, the y value is always going to be 0. Okay, the y value is going to be 0. So in this equation, negative 2x plus y equals 4, the y is going to be 0, and then if the y is 0, the x value is going to be the x value of the intercept. So I'm going to let y become 0. Negative 2x plus 0 is equal to 4. Now I will solve for the x. Okay, so what is the x when the y is 0? It's basically what this is saying. So since this is 0, we can basically leave it out. And if you look at this equation now, it's negative 2x equals 4. And then we can solve for x by dividing both sides by negative 2. X is equal to this, which is negative 2. Okay, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then this is positive. Positive dividing by a negative number gives you a negative number. So here is my x for the x-intercept. So here, back here, for the x-intercept, I'm going to write negative 2 for the x and 0 for the y. Now we do the same thing to find the y-intercept, but now we're going to let the x becomes 0. Notice at the y-intercept, the x value is 0. So same equation, negative 2x plus y equals 4. This time we will let the x be 0. So negative 2 times 0 plus y is the unknown still, is 4. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. 0 plus y equals 4. Now 0 kind of drops out, right? So answer is y equals 4. So here to write out, to be more clear, you can see the y-intercept is going to be, the y is 4, so the y part is 4, the x part is 0. So here we have 2 points that we can use to graph our line. So I'm going to do that right now. Right here. The y is going to be 4, so I'm going to make this a little bit. Okay, so my graph is a little skewed because I want to make sure those 2 points show up. Okay, so here's my x and y axes. The first point is negative 2, 0. So I come here, go left on the x-axis for the negative 2. 1, 2. Okay? And here, the x is 0, but the y is 4. So go up. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the positive 4. Here I have 2 points. That is enough for me to graph. But make sure that you're consistent in terms of the slope, okay? If you're not careful and you just graph a little bit skewed, this part is going to become inaccurate when you get to here, okay? So make sure that you really are hitting those corners, and then you kind of have to check a third point to make sure your graph is correct. You see how this is kind of like a go down 4, 2, right? 4, 2. So do kind of the same thing, 4, 2 here, and make sure you're hitting this point as well. Once you have 3 points, it's very hard. If you line up 3 points correctly, then your graph is most likely very accurate. But you gotta have that third point. Just 2 points a lot of times will give you a slightly skewed and inaccurate graph. Okay, and graphing is very important that it's pretty precise, as precise as you can get it. So here is our graph for this equation. Okay, let's see if it's really true. Let's see if this point on it also fits this graph, this equation. Now we already know these two work, okay? But to be sure that this really is the correct graph, test a point here. This point, let's name it. It's -1 and +2, right? So it's -1. Here's -1 on the x-axis. And for the y, it's +2. So this point is -1, 2. Now I'm going to put that into this equation and see if it works. So I have -2, -1, plus the y is 2. And let's see if this is correct. Okay, now -2 times -1 gives me a positive 2. Plus the 2, and that really is 4. Okay, so this is a check, okay, checking your answer. I know now that for sure this line is correct. It's the right graph for this equation. Okay, so there are many ways to graph based on an equation. This is the first way that I'm going to show you. You will learn other ways later on, but this is one of the best ways. No matter what kind of equation you're given, as long as it's a linear equation, because they can write this in different ways, okay, not just this way. But when you get an ilinear equation where the x is raised to the first power, there's no power here, okay? The x and the y don't have exponents here. That's a linear equation. When you get equations like that, one of the easiest ways to graph that is by finding the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay, so this is example 3 in your book. I'm going to make another video for example 4. Okay, so I hope this will help you. The questions that will go with these in your book will all say graph this equation, okay, or graph this linear function. Okay, so those are the kinds of questions that you will use this method to solve.